Hey YouTube, Kira Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Cardfight Vanguard Eugene deck profile for post-Illusionless Strife. We got some more Eugene support. I swear this is one of the decks that is basically like Greedon, where it gets a little bit of support in every booster set that comes out, but we had even more support in set 2 for the Eugene deck, so I figured an update was due. We even got a promo a while back to work with the Energy Blast ability with the energy generator for Eugene, which I've also included in the deck. I know some of the other cards are a little harder to get since they are promos, so I'll have cards to show in case you don't have the promo to run in the stead of those promos, and some of the other newer cards as well that you couldn't have until you get the new cards to replace. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the Ride deck. For the Ride deck, it consists of the energy generator. Our starter is the Double Gun of Duststorm Bart. Our grade 1 is Gunning of Duststorm Nigel when rode upon by Cataclysmic Bullet of Duststorm Randor, Soul Charge 1. The grade 2 Randor when rode upon by Heavy Artillery of Duststorm Eugene. Draw a card, choose up to one card from your drop, and put it into your soul. So just more soul setup for Eugene, and I'm calling it now because we've had the new Barrow Magnus revealed for set 4, which makes, Eugene the only deck left that hasn't gotten a new grade 3 from the decks from set 1 of the first D format set. Genesis of the 5 grades, we've had a new option for Sorceress, and then also Zorga. All the decks, Barrow Magnus, have all gotten new support from that pack Orphist, so Eugene's the last one. And speaking of, we run the 1 copy of Heavy Artillery of Duststorm Eugene in the Ride deck, and for the main deck, we run the 3 additional copies of this card as well. On the Vanguard circle, once per turn, you can rest 2 rear guards, choose one of your opponent's rear guards, and retire it, and this unit gets plus 10,000 till the end of turn. And on the Vanguard, once per turn, if your opponent's rear guard was retired this turn, you can Soul Blast 5, look at the same number of cards from the top of your deck as the number of cards your opponent's open rear guards, choose any number of cards, each from among them, call them to rear, and put the rest into your soul. So just more setup for you to then reuse Eugene's Soul Blast ability, but the setup with the more open rear guards to call out units onto the field also is a big plus with this card, giving you just the proper setup for rear guards that you want to have on the field. For the other grade 3s that we run, I'm running 2 copies of Hunting Gatling of Duststorm's Fierce. With this card, when it's placed on rear guard, if you have a Vanguard with Eugene in its card name, you can counter +1, discard a card from your hand, search your deck for up to 1 grade 3 normal order without Regala's Piece, reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle your deck. So the main order that we run in the deck is Best Harvest, since we have the option to be able to use this card for more draw power in the deck as well. So with that, we have the 2 copies of Fierce. For the new cards from Illusionless Strife, ideally I do want to run 4 copies of the new Dragritter Durgam. I believe it better to be better than the Gilbray Brachio. So if you have Brachio, you can replace it with the Dragritter until you get the additional copies to run 4 in total. When this unit's placed on rear guard, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Eugene or Gandiva and its card name, Soul Blast 1 and Energy Blast 3, choose one of your opponent's rear guards, retire it. If you did not retire a card, draw a card, and this unit gets the rear guard ability of once per turn at the end of the battle your Vanguard attack. You choose one of your front row rear guards and stand it until the end of turn. And on rear guard, if you play a normal order this turn, it gets boost. So if you have this card set up with some of your other orders, you can at least use it as a booster if you had to call 2 grade 2s in the same column with this card. But the big play also is to give another rear guard on the field the restand power that it can provide also for that play. There are so many cards in the Eugene deck now that just focus on boost power. It definitely is crazy to use. More retire power, we use the 4 copies of Howitzer of Duststorm Dustin. When this card is placed on rear guard, if you have a Vanguard with Eugene, put a card from your hand to your soul, draw a card, choose one of your opponent's grade 2 or greater rear guards, and retire it. Retire power, but also setting up the soul for you to use for Eugene's Soul Blast. And on rear guard, when it attacks, you can Soul Blast 1, it gets plus 2,000 to the end of battle for each of your opponent's open rear guards. So added power boosting when this card attacks, because your opponent's field should be clear since you have a good amount of retire power in this deck to use for all of your many different plays. And for the grade ones, another spot for the new promo, which was the monthly shop promo, is Stormband Dragon. When it's placed on rear, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Eugene or Gandiva in its card name, Energy Blast 3, choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it. If you did not retire a card, draw a card, and this unit gets plus 5,000 until end of turn. So draw power if you don't have the retire cost for this card. The Jody is a recycle card to use, but the Stormband makes use of the Energy Blast in the deck. And at the beginning of your battle phase, if your opponent's rear guard was retired this turn, stand this unit, making up for the fact that you may use this card for the rest ability of your Vanguard to then restand it afterwards at the beginning of your battle phase. And also running the 4 copies of Springing Bullet of Duststorm Glynis with this card on rearguard. Once per turn, when your opponent's rearguard is retired during your main phase, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Eugene in its card name, stand this unit, and it gets plus 5,000 to the end of battle. So just more options for the rested target to then be able to restand. And on Guard Circle, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Eugene in its card name, it gets plus 5,000, making it a 10k guard, which can be quite useful against your opponent depending on what you go up against. I also run the 3 copies of Wild Bullet of Duststorm Clifton, with this card having the countercharge option. When attacks are boost, if your opponent's rearguard was retired by the ability of your Vanguard this turn, it gets plus 2,000 for each of your opponent's open rearguards. And on the rearguard circle at the end of the battle, this unit boosted. If you have a Vanguard with Eugene in its card name, retire this unit. Choose up to 3 cards from your soul and choose one, or if you chose one or more cards, return them to the deck. Shuffle it. If you did not countercharge this turn, countercharge. So this is a much more faster recycle power than Jody, which is why I like to make full use of this card for its countercharge ability on top of that, and not having to use the Soul Blast power like Jody does also. And I also run 2 copies of Assault Bullet of Duststorm Oswald on rearguard at the end of the battle. This unit boosted a Vanguard with Eugene in its card name. If your opponent's Vanguard's grade 3 or greater, and they have no rearguards, counterblast 1, discard a card from your hand, choose one of your Vanguards, stand it, and increase or decrease its critical and triple drive and drive to 1, not triple drive, because Eugene rarely ever has the chance to get triple drive, and also just reducing it to 1. So you have a restanding Eugene Vanguard, but also just 2 of this card because it has to boost a Vanguard with Eugene, and it's very easy to search into the deck using the Eugene cards, whether you draw it off of Best Harvest or Eugene's own Soul Blast ability to set this card up behind your Vanguard afterwards. I also run the 4 copies of Twin Buckler Dragon, just running the full Sentinel lineup so we have a better target, if need be, to call a grade 1 out onto the rear guard instead of seeing an Elementary Sanctitude off of Eugene, so we don't have to put the Elementary Sanctitude into the Soul. And for the order, the 4 copies of Best Harvest, I just have the 2 alternate arts just because I really can't choose between the 2. I'm a fan of both. Choose one of your Vanguards, so if turn it gets on Vanguard, when your opponent's rearguard is retired during your main phase, you draw a card. Just draw power. It makes up for your hand consistency and any of the cards you may have put onto the field to invest also. With our trigger lineup being the 7 criticals, so 4 copies of Burning Flail Dragon, the 3 copies of Conduct Spark Dragon, and then for the draws, 4 copies of Flare Veil Dragon for the added 5k shield, the 4 copies of the Heal Parasolis, with our overtrigger being the 1 copy of Dragon Deity King of Resurgence Dragveda. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. I always love updating Eugene. It was one of the first, Dragon Empire decks along with Nirvana that I made when D format started and stuck with me since then as well. And I hope you all enjoyed. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Qualia out.